I received some odd ryomes from a buddy 4 years ago. He instructed me to plant them, but I didn't really know what they were, so I placed them in a garden corner I wasn't utilizing. It was a place with regular dirt, no fertilizer, and no particular attention. After planting them, I totally forgot about them. I genuinely forgot about them. I only ever used rainwater to water them. I added nothing at all, not even fertilizer or compost. The months passed. When autumn music arrived, I thought of them. When I went to investigate, I discovered some massive plants, music, that were nearly 2 meters tall. When I carefully dug them out, I discovered big roots that were roughly the size of a sweet potato underneath. After washing and tasting them, I was astounded. They had an apple honey flavor, juicy, sweet, and music crunchy. I realized then why this plant needs to be found in a lot more gardens. It's called Yacon, song, and it's possibly the simplest plant I've ever grown. The interesting thing is that outside of the Andes, very few people are familiar with Yacon. It has been consumed for generations in Bolivia and Peru. However, it remains a little-known crop throughout much of Latin America. To be honest, that doesn't make sense because it provides just what practically everyone is searching for. It doesn't require a lot of watering, produces a lot of food with very little labor, and has virtually no pests or diseases. After you plant music once, it appears to take care of itself. Allow me to define yaon in detail. Small music, Anths sonifolius, is its scientific name. It is a member of the Asteraceae family. Thus, it is a distant relative of the artichoke and the sunflower music. It originates in regions of the Andes that are between 1,000 and 3,000 meters above sea level and have a temperate climate with sunny days and cold nights. Because of this, it thrives in many locations without harsh winters. Its tuberous roots are what you eat. Here's a crucial detail though. Music. 2 different kinds of roots are produced by the plant. The large roots that resemble sweet potatoes are known as storage roots, music. Additionally, there are the ryomes, which are the plant's multiplying portions. Many people end up ingesting the ryomes because they mistake one for the other. That is incorrect. The ryomes have a poor taste in music. They are quite unpleasant, rough, and fibrous. Conversely, the roots that have that delightful and revitalizing taste are the storage roots. I experienced that initially. Music. I took everything out, cleaned everything, and had a terrible rhyome. I nearly believed that I had received a worthless plant. Music. Then I saw a Peruvian farmer explaining that the thick roots falling downward were different from the edible ones. The good ones are those. Music. Let's now discuss why you should be interested in this. First, music due to the taste. It's lovely, really sweet, but in a different musical way. It tastes different than table sugar. It tastes like a combination of pear, apple, with a delicate hint of melon. It's also crispy, very crunchy music. I prefer to eat it raw, peeled, and sliced into sticks that resemble sweet carrot sticks. My kids consume it like candy. The intriguing thing is that ordinary sugar is not the source of this sweetness. It is derived from substances known as phos or fructosaccharides. The body does not break down these fructose chains in the same manner as it does regular sugar. When they get to the big intestine, they nourish good bacteria there. Yacon functions as a natural prebiotic, to put it another way. Music, Yacon has garnered a lot of attention because of this. It is more than just a nice tuber, music to consume. Additionally, it has a particularly specific nutritional profile. Serious studies have examined its impact on the intestinal microbiota, glucose metabolism, and diet of music individuals with type 2 diabetes, particularly in Peru and Japan. I'm not claiming that music is a miracle treatment because it isn't. However, it is a dish with highly intriguing qualities, particularly music for those seeking something sweet that doesn't have the same effect as other sugary goods. There aren't many usable calories in it either. Music. About 60 calories can be obtained from a 200-gram root, although the same music number of sweet potatoes can supply significantly more. Yan still feels lovely despite this. Because of this, it nearly feels like cheating when you taste the music. It has a pleasant flavor, it makes you feel full, it gives you a boost of energy. It also feels like light music at the same time. However, the ease of growing this plant, rather than its taste or nutritional value, was what really altered my perception of it. To be honest, this is a lot simpler if you have grown potatoes. Potatoes need care due of fungus, bugs, and too much moisture. In contrast, Yacon is a very appreciative plant. After planting it and letting it grow for several months, I was able to collect almost 15 kilograms from a very tiny area, and all of it without devoting nearly any attention to music. A plant planted and then forgotten, and music replenishes food abundantly at the cycle's conclusion. That is a lot of music for a family garden. Allow me to explain the planting process. The rhizomes, the bits that are not consumed, are what you need. They have a somewhat ginger-like appearance. They are small, knobby, and have buds that are apparent. The shoots are produced by those buds, music. When there is no longer a chance of frost, they are planted in the spring. The rhizome is placed in a hole that is about 20 centimeters deep, covered with dirt, and that's it. You don't need to fertilize too much if the soil is decent. You can add a small amount of mature compost if the soil music is poor, but don't add too much. A plant that receives too much nitrogen produces fewer roots and an excessive number of leaves, music. In this case, moderation is preferable to excess. However, space is crucial. Keep music at least 1 meter away from each plant. Yan grows a lot, thus I like 1.5 meters song. It can quickly grow to a height of 1.8 music to 2 minus. It features enormous, eye-catching green leaves. Music, it even resembles a decorative plant. With the benefit that you can ultimately music eat it, Music Yan also works for creating a green screen in the garden. It doesn't require much water in the heat. It does well in moderate drought. Naturally, it is a good idea to water the plant if it is beginning to deteriorate due to intense heat. However, music uses a lot less water than tomatoes, cucumbers, or squash. For me, it's generally sufficient to water once a week during the summer, and the rain often takes care of the rest in the spring or fall. I have had great experience with pests. It is hardly attacked by anything. At the beginning of the season, I once noticed some aphid activity on the delicate leaves, but it quickly went away. I didn't use natural cures, pesticides, or potassium soap. It just vanished. Perhaps a natural predator or ladybug showed up. Music. The point is that I've never needed to give Yacon anything. No organic treatments, no chemical goods, nothing. The plant starts to change when fall arrives. It's typical for the leaves to become yellow before dying. The plant is transmitting energy to the roots at that music moment. Ideally, you should wait until the top music ground section has fully withered or until the first light music frost if it occurs in your area. Harvesting is best done at that time. Cut the stems at ground level first. Then, as the roots are prone to breaking, carefully loosen the dirt. Instead of using a shovel, I like to use a digging fork. The two halves of the melody arise after I loosen the soil surrounding the plant till it emerges whole. The tuberous roots that hang below the stem's base are where the rhizomes are attached. The roots are saved for consumption, and the rhizomes' music are laid away for replanting. Because the plant gives back far more than one might imagine, that harvest moment is always remarkable. There's one more crucial detail. To make the roots tastier, many advise leaving them in the sun or in an airy location for 1 or 2 days. A portion of their chemicals alter while they rest, making the flavor even more delicious. Usually, I move them to a cool, dark location after leaving them in a wooden box with adequate ventilation for a few days. Nevertheless, I had to learn a lesson the hard way. If you intend to store them, it is not a good idea to wash them all at harvest. Music. They may decay if kept in a wet environment. I washed the entire harvest the first year I made that error, kept it clean in boxes, and soon lost a significant portion of it. I now only wash them before eating them, and preserve them with a little dirt music still attached. I've had very few losses since. Additionally, the ryomes must be preserved correctly. Music. I store them in a cool music location without frost on a barely damp substrate like sawdust or peat. In this manner, they remain healthy until the next spring. This is significant because several ryomes can be produced by a single music plant. One plant can occasionally yield 10 to 20. This implies that if you plant one piece of music one year, you may have a lot more the following year. You soon have more Yacon music than your family can listen to. In terms of yields, a healthy plant can yield 5 to 10 kilograms of edible roots. Everything is dependent on the climate, the music, water, and the soil. In my situation, each plant weighs about 7 kilograms on average. Music. A family can produce enough music for several months with just a few plants. How do you consume it? Raw is the finest method, in my opinion. It darkens quickly, much like an apple. So peel it, cut it into sticks, and if you'd like, put it in water with a few drops of lemon to prevent it from oxidizing music. In this manner, music is ideal for a salad or as a snack. It tastes well with goat cheese, walnuts, and beets. There's something unique about that blend. The mix of the earthy note of the beetroot, the salty touch of the cheese, and the fresh sweetness of the yacon is exquisite. It can be cooked as well. It tastes well cooked in the oven with a little oil and rosemary or stir-fried with other veggies. But there's a significant distinction here. A portion of the fructosaccharides are altered during cooking. As a result, some of the prebiotic effect we discussed is lost. Of course, it's still delicious, but eating it raw is the ideal option if you're really interested in its nutritional profile. You can prepare it as you wish if you just want to appreciate the flavor. Syrup can also be made. It is customary in the Andes to boil the roots, extract the liquid, and reduce it until you have a thick sweetener that resembles light honey. I gave it a shot once. Music is fascinating, but it takes time. For my part, I would rather eat you fresh and avoid having to do all that labor. Making juice is an additional music option. A sweet, light, and delicious beverage is produced by blending the raw roots. I prefer to combine music with carrots and apples. It works out really nicely. Additionally, I am aware that I am providing a sugar-free, natural product. Nevertheless, there is a crucial caution. Because yaon contains a lot of fructosaccharides, it is advised to start with a small amount if you have never eaten it. If your intestines are not accustomed to it, it may result in gas or bloating. The ideal course of action is to start with a little piece, around 50 g, and gradually expand. I overate the first time because I was so enthralled with the flavor. That same music night, I learnt my lesson. And now for the big question. Why doesn't anyone music develop it if it's so good? I believe there are a number of causes. Lack of knowledge outside of the Andean regions is the first. A lot of folks just don't know what it is. The public does not request it if they are unaware of it. Furthermore, very few people make it on a significant scale if they do not request it. The sensitive nature of the root's music is the second explanation. They bruise readily when being transported. They don't manage commercial migration as well as potatoes do. Yacon needs greater attention, which makes distribution more difficult. It doesn't last as long as other tubers, which is the third reason. Yes, music can endure for several months, but not as long or as readily as a potato that has been well toured. Music is a drawback for a big commercial chain. However, it doesn't really matter for a family garden. You gather music, store it at home, and gradually eat it. Music is nearly ideal for self-consumption. For this reason, I think it's the perfect plant for anyone looking to get more out of their garden without complicating their lives. Compared to what it produces, it occupies very little room. It requires minimal upkeep. Additionally, it provides a music for a variety of foods that are typically difficult to locate in markets. Music. And that is one of the best things about growing up at home, in my opinion. Having access to tastes, music, genres, and experiences that are typically unattainable in addition to saving money. Give it a shot if you have an empty space in your yard and are unsure of what to plant. Plant 4 or 5 ryomes. Allow them to develop and then bide your time till fall. It's highly likely that the harvest will take you by surprise. Finally, as you harvest, always save more ryomes than you anticipate needing. I only preserved a small number the first year, believing that would be sufficient, and several were misplaced while being stored. I've always kept more than I need ever since. The extras I donate, and to be honest, I enjoy doing it because it gradually spreads this plant. Yacon should be more well known. It defies logic that a plant that is so simple to cultivate, so fruitful, and so delicious should be almost unknown to so many. Join us in the upcoming films by subscribing to Botanical Vault if you like learning about practical crops, unusual cuisines, and easy techniques to produce more with less effort.